Hi everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and you have made it through week 1 of our 10-week course. So each week I'm going to try and send out a video roundup like this, or sometimes it's just a written, typed out roundup. So make sure you read them because they contain information, what's upcoming, what needs to be addressed in terms of the class, what was great about the class this week, what was not, what more information you might need for the midterm and the final to develop answers. So make sure you listen to the roundups, they're very important. So this week all we had to do was the introduction post and a response post to a fellow classmate, and you'll have due by tomorrow night, which is Sunday, October 8th, you'll have do your quiz on chapter 1 of the textbook. Now, I know sometimes the first week of class is really tough to get the textbook. So if that's the case, you can try and use the PowerPoint that is embedded in each module. If you can't, to answer the questions, you're just going to have to do your best using the PowerPoint to answer the questions. Like I said in the video on the home page, you can open that up in PowerPoint, and there are notes on the bottom of each slide. That may also help you. But I would make sure that for future quizzes that you have the textbook available. Because remember, the quizzes deal with only the textbook chapter, not the additional readings. Because remember, this is a 10-week course, we have to condense some weeks together, and starting this week you have 2 sessions due, so you have a lot of reading, an enormous amount of reading. And I know you're going to say, oh well, there's no reason for us to have this amount of reading. Actually there is, because this is a 10-week course. Remember, we're squishing 15 weeks worth of work in 10 weeks. We don't just do away with 4 weeks worth of work. So what I need you to do is this week we're going to cover session 2 and session 3. So there is a lot of reading due with these 2 sessions. So you're going to need to plan ahead, and time management will be essential to succeed. So this week you'll have an initial post due by Tuesday. Remember, although the due date says Thursday, the initial posts are always due by Tuesday. You will have an initial post due on Tragedy of the Commons, and you'll have an initial post due for Ethics, Policy, and Economics, which is session 3. So you'll have 2 initial posts due by Tuesday, one for that session, the other for session 3. Then you'll have due 2 response posts to fellow classmates on Thursday, one to your Tragedy of the Commons session and one to the Ethics and Economics session. And then by next Sunday, you'll have just 1 quiz due, because there is no quiz associated with Tragedy of the Commons, because there's technically no textbook chapter related to that content. So you have a lot due. You have 2 large articles to read. Tragedy of the Commons by Garrett Hardin, which is a fantastic article. So under Tragedy of the Commons, you'll have these small little articles, but then you have one big article here, additional article, which is Tragedy of the Commons by Garrett Hardin. And this is a wonderful article. It talks about commons, which is that shared space. Anything that we share is considered a commons. And Garrett Hardin's article talks about the fact that we've tried for years to put technical solutions into place to solve the destruction of those common resources, because we look for that short-term gain rather than the long-term interest of the commons. So it's easier for me to litter because I am taking care of my trash problem now, but I'm not thinking about future down the line that, oh my goodness, if all this garbage accumulates, then the house values decrease. No one wants to come to the city for tourism. It affects everybody in the long run. So we always look for that short-term gain. And Garrett Hardin in his article talks about all of those technical solutions we put into place to try and solve the commons issue, but they don't work because we rather need an extension in morality, which is, we don't know what. Education might be a little bit of an extension in morality, but that's not always the case. We've put all these technical solutions in the pot, and nothing seems to work. And in his article, he talks about all those technical solutions: privatization, mutual corrosion, a welfare state. He tries to talk about all these things. Now, while his article specifically talks about population, it doesn't mean that that article, you can't plug in something else like pollution of the air or or you know, destruction of land or pollution of the oceans. You can't like plug those things in there and they'll all kind of ring true. So this is a big article. Now there's a couple questions there that while the question seems like it just needs you to pinpoint to one of these other articles, you also should bring in some information from Tragedy of the Commons. So for example, the Gulf oil spill question, you know, people will say, oh, well, yeah, it's okay to privatize the ocean, but then I want you to reference Garrett Hardin's article where he talks about privatization and whether technically can we privatize something because then it technically will not be a commons anymore. So there's a lot of like questions to whether we should privatize common spaces or not. So make sure you look at those other articles and bring them all in. Remember, initial posts in this class from this point forward need to use sources from this class only. You cannot just go online and Google something and bring it in, because if that's the case, then you are technically not allowing other people to respond to you because they don't have that information in front of them and whether it's a valid statement or not. So make sure you have that. Now, under ethics, economics, and policy, you have a couple large articles. Now, this Pricing the Priceless article talks about what are called cost-benefit analysis, and it's how we put a price tag on nature. So if you get the question, can we put a price tag on forests, and you say no, that's not true, because technically we can put a price tag on forests. We use cost-benefit analysis, and we use ecological valuation. And the other part of that question is in your textbook. You do not need to read the example of arsenic in the drinking water, which takes up a large portion of the document. What you need to read about is what are the problems and what are the good things about cost-benefit analysis in that article. These other questions deal with cap and trade. There's a wonderful little video here from Annie Leonard. We'll watch another video from her later in the semester. It gives you a good backdrop to what cap and trade is and what are the problems. This article is about California. They're doing the largest cap and trade policy right now, and they've been doing it for a couple years, and so we'll know the results of that coming up soon. Environmental injustice, which is a huge issue today. You can read about 2 instances of environmental justice and talk about those. Also, if you look here under Tragedy of the Commons, you have the Japanese dock or Trojan horse question, which deals with a podcast. You can also talk about what invasive species are, and I talk about those in the PowerPoint as well. So yes, it is a lot of material, but I think, you know, we need to cover these important topics. And so you have 2 initial posts to do, response posts due. The initial posts are due by Tuesday, response posts are due by Friday. You have your quiz due by next Sunday as well. So remember, these next couple weeks are going to be really tough, and I told you about this in the video on the home page, is that we need to condense the work that we're covering because we need to catch up for 4 weeks. And then we're caught up, and then the rest of the semester kind of goes downhill. And I would much rather have it that way, front load the course, than back load the course, because a lot of other professors at the college backload their courses, and then what'll happen is you'll just be so totally frantic at the end of the semester. I gave you feedback to your initial post. A lot of you did a great job, but a lot of you, again, are missing just the basic requirements. If you have questions about the basic requirements for this course, make sure you read the documents under the course information session. I spent a lot of time making all these documents and videos, etc. Please use them. They're wonderful resources. Okay, so have a wonderful weekend. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and make sure you keep looking out for roundups like this at the end of each week. Have a wonderful week.